Yo, have you heard of LinkedIn Learning? If you haven't, LinkedIn Learning is an American massive open online course provider. It provides video courses taught by industry experts in a variety of subjects. Now, why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because Living Corporate is in partnership with LinkedIn Learning to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion courses. Listen, if you're trying to be a better ally, you want to understand better diversity, equity, inclusion strategies, or you just want to learn how to be a better leader, you got to check out the courses on LinkedIn Learning. So check it out. You can do it one of two ways. You can click the link in the show notes, or you go to LinkedIn Learning and you search Living Corporate. Again, link in the show notes, or go to LinkedIn Learning and search Living Corporate. I'll see you over there.
Hello, and welcome back to the Access Point, everybody. You are back for after our season one. We had a nice, successful season one. We took some time off. We want to thank you all for joining us. Real quick, as we sort of kick off this season 2, there may be a few people who don't really know a lot about this. So I want to make sure we introduce you to this platform a little bit. And so the Access Point is brought to you by Living Corporate. And Living Corporate is a writing and podcasting platform dedicated to exploring and celebrating underrepresented identities in corporate America. We are early to mid-career consultants who came together based on our shared desire to have frank conversations about the way we exist, survive, and succeed in corporate spaces. As a collective, we represent a broad spectrum of beliefs, cultures, and identities, and we know that our differences have shaped our perspectives and experiences in corporate America. So we want to engage with our other voices that often go unheard and have conversations out loud. Living Corporate is for anyone who wants to have these conversations with us and push the needle forward on how we can create and sustain spaces that reflect true inclusiveness. So that's a little bit about Living Corporate itself. Now, do you want to tell them a little bit about the Access Point, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, some of the language is the same, right? The Access Point is part of the Living Corporate network. It's our weekly web show where we bring real talk to prepare you for the job market and for the workforce. The content is focused on preparing Black and Brown students for the future of work, but this is definitely for everybody. You know, so each week we normally have these super dope guests on the show where we have a ton of fun talking to these people. And this week is a little different. This week is our kickoff episode, so we don't have a guest. We have me, Mike, and Tristan.
Yes, it's just us at this point in time. But as you continue to join us throughout this season, you're going to see quite a few amazing guests. So for those of you who hadn't joined us for season 1, we had quite a few shows. We had 11 shows in total, including our kickoff episode with the 4 hosts, right? So for those of you who aren't aware, we have 4 hosts. It's Mike, myself, Tiffany, and Brandon. And we covered a ton of topics last season, some really, really good topics. So real quick, I want to see, Mike, what do you think your favorite topic was that we covered last time?
My mind gravitates towards one of my favorite discussions that we had. And it was actually, you and I were hosting this episode. So it was super fun. It was with Dr. B.
Yes. That's one of my favorite too, on strategic self-advocacy.
That's right, self-advocacy. And it was just like, I felt like, that conversation felt like the barbershop. Like it felt, like it was so many gems, so many nuggets in that one. So I loved that self-advocacy. And that's like, in a lot of ways, it was the story of my student experience. So I like that one a lot. What about you?
That was one of my favorite ones too. The strategic self-advocacy, and then also salary negotiation, because who doesn't like to learn how to secure the bag, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all here for a reason, and it's to get these coins. So, I thought those were really, really 2 amazing topics. So for those of you who didn't join, here's some of the things that we covered, right? We covered applying for jobs. We talked about some of the common pitfalls that you might encounter when you're looking for jobs. We talked about some key things that you can can do. We had Kirsten Greggs on the show, who is the trap recruiter, and she was dropping gems. We had your personal brand matters, right? And that Mike, you and Brandon hosted that one, talking a little bit about personal branding with Mark.
That's
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Texas State University graduate Mark Rayna.
Yes. And then interviewing effectively, because we know that, things like your resume, they help you get the interview, but the interviews will get you the job, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what really, really solidifies it here. And you and I got to host that one with Julia Rock.
Yes. Shout out to Julia Rock.
Rock career. She be out here getting the people together. Okay. And then we had salary negotiation with Lucretia Davis. We had some sponsor. We had finding sponsors, mentors, and allies with Liz Sweegart, and that was a really, really good one too. Brandon and I hosted that one, and I think that's a really, really important one. And the reason we're bringing up all these topics is because I want you to know what we discussed, because you might want to go back and watch them. They're all hosted here, they're recorded, and I'm telling you, there's tons of information that you could get from these sessions, going back and rewatching them. We also talked about setting effective professional boundaries. Tiffany and Brandon took that one.
That was a great one.
Yeah, man, you gotta set those professional boundaries. Look, people will trample all over you. Of course,
that's right.
If you don't set some boundaries around some things. Then we talked about being coachable. We talked about protecting your mental health, and both of our favorites, strategic self-advocacy, is what we close out the season with. So if you have some time throughout this week, throughout the month, over the next couple of months, take some time to go back and revisit those episodes, or visit them for the first time. So that way you can make sure you really, really got all of the gems that were dropped inside of there. And don't hesitate to reach out to any of the hosts, reach out to any of the guests, and sort of, maybe continue that conversation, right? Hey, I was watching your access point presentation, and I just had a few other questions. I know I personally would appreciate that. I'm pretty sure any of our guests would love to do that too, right? So yeah, that's a little bit about what we talked about previously. Now, Mike, what's some of the things? What are we going to talk about today? Like, what topic do we have on the docket?
We have a topic that when I first read it, I was like, I don't think I have too much to say about that. But then I realized I have a lot to say about it. We have the topic today is professional curiosity. Professional curiosity, and what that means is, at first I was like, who am I curious about? A person, a role, a career pathway? And then I realized, the answer is yes. The answer is all of them. All of it together, right? And like one of the best ways to advance your career, but also to make impact in that first 90 days that you get hired, or in that first year or first couple of years, is to remain curious, right? As an educator, actually, as a matter of fact, during season 1, I made a job transition. I went from working in a school to working with a large nonprofit called Teach for America. And so, a lot of these things, I used a lot of what we talked about at the access point to make that transition very smoothly and very seamlessly. And this was one of them, professional curiosity, right? Like, this is how I got that job. I had a meeting with somebody over, maybe 6 to 8 months ago. And I said, look, I just want to know about what this is, this thing called the Reinvention Lab. Like, what do y'all do? What are y'all about? And she told me, and then I told her what I was up to. And we talked and talked and talked. And 6 months later, I have a job that I love.
Yeah.
Right? So it really means a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And so when I think of curiosity, right, when it comes to your career, to me, it means that you want to learn. Yep. Right. You're ready to adapt to your changing environment, that you understand that you have a skill set, but you're not afraid to admit that you're willing to build on top of that, or there's some other things that you could be adding inside of there. Right. When you're curious, you sort of invest energy in actively improving yourself, right? That's really what that's about. And I think that is the key to a successful career overall. And it starts just from the very get-go, which I think the very first point of access when it comes to careers is networking. Right. Yeah. That's the very first point of access when it comes to careers. And when we're networking, it's important for us to stay curious about the people that we're talking to, what they do, how they do it, how they even got to where they are, what pathways they took. Right. Because that curiosity is going to give us so much insight into the field, which can save us a ton of heartache on the back end. Right. Because we sit here and be like, I want to be a data analyst. And then you go talk to somebody who's the data analyst. And you're like, I don't want to be a data analyst anymore. Right. right. And so I think it's that curiosity starts there, but that curiosity also allows people to feel like you're being genuine when you're having those interactions with them, right? That you want to know about them, which is sort of the precipice of building a successful relationship, whether that just be someone who is a good connection, maybe that's someone who's a mentor, someone who becomes a sponsor, whatever the case may be. But that curiosity is going to be the thing that really pushes you over the edge. And then that just continues to progress beyond that, right? As you get into a job, being curious about more than just currently your job. How does that play into the bigger picture of the organization? How am I making a difference here? How can things change? Are there things that need to be more efficient, right? This curiosity just continues or should continue throughout your career. And I believe that's really going to be the thing that helps you continue to progress and grow in your career, right? Yeah. But it does take a little bit of self-awareness, and it also takes a little tempering of your ego to be curious, right? You can't be a know-it-all. That's just simply put. You have to realize that there are people who are better than you at things, and you can learn from those people and become better. And I think that is a really hard thing for a lot of us to do in these spaces.
Yeah, and I also think it takes it just takes time. Like it takes extra time to do this well, to do professional curiosity well. Sometimes, I'm just going to be honest with you, sometimes I take meetings that are a waste of time. But the reason why I do it is because I really never know where this is going to go. Sometimes it leads to a paid speaking engagement, and sometimes somebody's like, "Oh, I want to pick your brain," and I'm like, I mean, there's all sorts of creative ways that they get that meeting. They don't come out and say it at the beginning. But, I mean, you really never know. Some of the most exciting collaborations and projects I'm working on have just come out of the blue, trying to learn about somebody or learn about what they do. But I'll ask you this, Justin, because what I found in my life is that curiosity for the sake of curiosity don't mean nothing. Your professional curiosity should have a strategy. So how do you add some strategy to your professional curiosity? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to some of the things that I was talking about earlier, right? If you're in the spot where you feel like you need a mentor, the way you're really going to find a mentor is to start to be curious about other people and what they do. How they've succeeded, what steps they've taken, what pathways they've already sort of forged inside of this, right? Maybe if you're looking for that next promotion inside of your job, being strategic with your curiosity there and trying to figure out how you can gain additional business insight, right? Being curious on the industry pushes you to learn more. Being curious on your business pushes you to learn more. And as you learn more about the business and how it operates, you have a better fundamental understanding that prepares you for leadership roles inside of that organization. It prepares you to provide solutions to potential problems that they may not see yet, right? That curiosity can give you a ton of insight. And I think that's really what you have. That's really what I think the strategy is knowing that the curiosity is to gain insight, and then you are to act on that insight. Yeah. Whether that networking gives you insight, and now you're tailoring your resume, your cover letter, you're changing up your interview your interview question answers and all those type of things. Now that's how your curiosity becomes strategic, right? Whether you're trying to figure out that promotion, your curiosity about the business and how you play into that bigger picture, that is more strategic, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is sort of where I see it. The other part, and I see this all the time as a career coach, I think professional curiosity is strategic in just advancing your career outside of just your organization, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is all too often we get very caught up, and this is the correct pathway for me to get to point B, right? I'm at point A and I need to get to point B. This means I need to go from here. I need to go to the supervisor, then I need to go to the manager role, then I need to go to the director role, right? And oftentimes our career pathways don't play out that way. Right. And that curiosity can give us a good understanding of that. Maybe you're able to jump some levels. Maybe that curiosity can take you and say, okay, if you leave your company now and go to another company, and now 2 years later, you come back to this company, now you're making 20% more than you were before, right? That professional curiosity can really drive you further. But I also see it in one other way when it comes to that is people get really pigeonholed when it comes to, hey, I have to just do this. I've been doing data science for so long. I have to be just strictly a data scientist. When in reality, you could venture into different areas of the business, even with your data science background, and provide different insight and gain different experiences that then prepare you for different roles inside of the organization. But oftentimes we feel like we are so stuck where we are currently that we sort of stifle our own curiosity about what's out there to advance our career.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. That's a huge point. That's the most dangerous place I think you can be in your career is if you think there is nothing else out there for you. And, I know with that same example, like with teachers, they say to me all the time. So I just started this personal branding community for educators specifically because I'm like, the education community does not know how to leverage a personal brand. And really what it is that there is a lack of professional curiosity to figure out like what else is available to me inside of this field, but also outside of this field. Like I was talking to somebody in my branding community, and I was like, did you know that you can go work at AT&T as a corporate trainer and make almost double what your salary is? She's like, what? I'm like, you know how many other companies need corporate trainers and that's your primary skill set? I mean, and all it takes is for you to go talk to somebody, for you to send an email, send a LinkedIn invite, and go figure that out. I mean, really, like my basketball coach in high school used to say, "You're a Google search away from your next career move." Right? All you got to do is be curious enough to Google search a name or a position or how to get there, and you can leave your industry, right? You can leave. There's boot camps, all kind of stuff. You can leave your industry.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that teacher idea. I work with educators all the time, and they feel like they are just stuck in the realm of education.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, many people inside of corporate space will be like, hey, what can educators do inside of here? And I'm like, they can do a ton of stuff. The entire basis of all of our skill sets comes from education, right?
Right.
So these are the very people who are teaching these things, right? So I think it's very interesting. If you're not curious in what's next for you, what's out there for you, you get very stifled. You get sort of pigeonholed inside of that career, and then work is less fun, right? Intellectual or professional curiosity helps you to be more interested in the world around you and the work that you're doing. That's just simply put, right?
Absolutely.
It allows you to not necessarily accept things the way they are without having the desire to know like how they came to be or, how you can make things better. And so as you continue to dig beneath the surface, things actually become fun. Having that curiosity, right? It takes work to a different level for you. It can make it more exciting and more enjoyable. And I think oftentimes what I find with a lot of people who are really downtrodden about their current work experience, they've lost that spark of curiosity in what it is.
Yes.
Right? It's become monotonous. It's the same day to day. They don't understand how they play into the bigger picture. They're not identifying ways to become more efficient, more effective for or how to make the organization more efficient or effective. Right. So I think that intellectual curiosity just does so, or I say intellectual, but I consider them all the same.
Yeah,
curiosity in general. It makes work that much more fun. Now, the other thing when it comes to this, and this is something I actually talked about in my Living Corporate tips recently, was that, some of the skill sets that recruiters and hiring managers are looking for in employees in 2021. And, really there's a lot of stuff about resiliency, but the other thing was curiosity, right? We've basically been in a position where our work environments have been shaken up probably for a very long time. I don't know if we ever will go back to what we knew before fully, right? And so they're looking for people who are able to adjust to the new needs and circumstances to get the job done, who are curious enough to go out there and figure out solutions to some of the issues we're now facing in this new work environment that we have. And so curiosity can be something that can literally set you up to be a better candidate for a position, and also set you up to become sort of a thought leader inside of your company, which can be huge for your career. It can do wonders. You know?
Oh, so, it's the differentiator. I mean, like what I'll tell you is that what I'm experiencing now is that, right? Like my job is to dream, and it kind of always is, but it is like professional curiosity, intellectual curiosity is how I make impact in my current career. And so I can tell you, like, that is so key. So if you're watching this, like, absolutely, I'll just tell you, I love sneakers. I'm a sneakerhead. I have some that just came in by my desk. I love sneakers. I also love education. I said to somebody a year ago, I was like, I'm going to figure out some way to collaborate with one of my favorite brands. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm going to do it. I get in this job, and one of the first things I do is I think on a random day. So I just tweeted at a brand called 99 Products. And I was like, yo, like, hey, like, let's work together. And he responded. And this guy is the guy, for context, he's the dude that created Yeezy, the Yeezy brand. So now he now has his own brand. Now we're matching up organizations from our network, education organization, to do a sneaker design contest that's housed through Teach for America and this brand, right? So it's like the curiosity will take you a long way. But for me, what that's doing is it's building a reputation that in my first 30 to 60 days of this job, my curiosity has built us a very strong relationship with somebody who we didn't have before. So like once you're in a job, professional curiosity is going to serve you very, very well.
Yeah. 100%. So when we talk about professional curiosity, right, I think I also want to attach some tangibles around this, right? Yeah. What that curiosity looks like, how you can remain curious inside of your career, right? So I think one of the things this is just one of them, but there's many things you can be doing. Is first, staying current in the news and trends inside of your industry and in your company. Right. A lot of times we'll have those CEO reports. We'll have the all hands on meetings. Right. We're just there because we need to attend. We're just clacking on our keyboard, not really paying attention, not knowing what's going on. Right. But if we pay attention a little bit more inside of those things, we can gain some really pertinent information. Right. It allows us to really understand maybe some of the pitfalls that the company is going through, some of the ways that we might actually be able to help in those situations. Right. Yep. But number one, it requires you to be curious about that. The other thing is be curious about what skills you can continue to develop and where you can exercise those skills. Right. I had a coaching call with a client, and we were talking about how he could sort of achieve some of these goals that he had. And I explained to him a concept that I do with some of my career coaching clients. He's like, oh my God, we do a very similar concept over here in this thing. And he's like, I never thought to even apply that to my goal structure, right? He's like, it never even crossed my mind, right? And so just figuring out how you're able to develop those skills, but how that also translates across the board. And so I'll give you an example, design thinking. Design thinking was something that started in software development, and now it's moved into the majority of fields that are out there, right? We're doing design thinking in education. We do design thinking in career work now, but that was something that started with a very specific niche, right? That was a skill set that started in a very specific place. So figuring out ways that you can not only develop your skills, but how that translates across the board. And then I think the other major thing for me when it comes to being curious is just sort of discovering the new ways you're able to challenge yourself inside your role, right? How can you push yourself? Think of different ways that you can discover new strengths and even weaknesses, because the thing about it is curiosity isn't all about positive things. Curiosity is also figuring out the negative side of things. And if you can figure out your weaknesses, number one, you're aware of them, which means that most people cannot use them against you. Number two, you can figure out how to strengthen them and then utilize them and leverage them to your benefit, right? So I think that curiosity allows us to really have a better understanding of ourselves, our work ethic, our character, and how we can sort of, change and mold into the person that we want to be, whatever that looks like for anybody. But I think those are some real actionable, sort of tangible things that you can just sort of start doing off the bat that can sort of help in that professional curiosity realm. Are there any other things you can think of, Mike?
Yeah, I think I love the point about challenging yourself. I was in a particular job that I was not enjoying. I stopped enjoying this job. And then my wife said to me one day, she was like, just look for a new problem to solve every day. And I was like, okay. So yeah, like I think that would be a tangible way to sort of challenge yourself. If you say like, how do you do that? Like look for something that you're uniquely positioned to solve each day and play the game within the game, like a puzzle. Right. The other thing I would say is this. I say the same thing about social media and personal branding. When you feel like, I don't have anything to say on social media, do the thing that's arguably more beneficial, which is just engage with people. And I think that works for in person in your workplace too. Like if you're not feeling passionate, or if you find yourself, you're like, oh, look, I really want to get a spark or some inspiration. Literally, like, think about just hitting somebody up who's on your team and saying, hey, can we get 15, 20 minutes on Zoom so I can just learn more about you and where you come from? And that will, number one, go a long way towards creating a cohesiveness on your team. You'll learn something about somebody you work with, but it may literally spark an idea for a project or how you can work on something together. This happened with me 2 weeks ago. I, reached out and said, hey, like, look, let's get to know each other. And then I realized, this person is a person I need because I'm an idea-oriented person. And she is an executor. Like, doesn't matter what's going on, she's going to get it done. So I need to be sitting up next to her all the time, right? I learned that from just getting to know who she was and where she came from. And the last thing I'll say is just understand that curiosity in itself is a strategy. Like Tristan said that earlier, right? Like the curiosity is the strategy. The more that you can do that and display results from that, the more favorably you'll be viewed in your workplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Being curious in the workplace sets you up for so much. If you just take the time to be curious about what you do, and then take the time to be curious about what your boss does. Mm-hmm. Now you're sort of probing in your one-on-one. Hey, what's going on? How are things going? You guys having any issues, right? And now you understand what's going on in your boss's mind. Oftentimes we don't understand. We see the actions that our boss takes, but we don't necessarily understand why they took it. It doesn't necessarily always make sense to us, right? But now you have a better understanding of why they took that. Now you have a better understanding of their issues, their problems. Now you can position yourself to be someone to help solve those issues and solve those problems. Yep. Right. But that all stems from being curious in what they do, what roadblocks they're hitting, how they achieve what they're achieving. Right. Because then that gives you a better understanding of, once again, how you play into everything else inside of the company or organization. And I don't think we focus enough on that. We think we're there simply because I'm here to do this job, which you are. That's what they pay you to be here for. I'm not going to lie. But most of us, especially people who are going to be here in this type of form, we don't want to strictly stay in that job.
Exactly.
Right. And so if we're looking for ways to advance inside of the company, we need to make sure we get curious, not just about what's, ahead of us on the ladder, but we also need to get curious about what's beside us in the organization horizontally, right? What are people who are at my same level in this organization doing? How do their jobs play up into this, right? Yeah. How can I make their jobs easier? What roadblocks are they hitting? And that doesn't mean that you have to solve these issues, right? Sometimes just having an understanding of those issues helps you navigate the business better. That's just simply what it is. So, that curiosity, there's so many different ways. I think it's we could literally be on here for hours talking about the different ways that can help you. But with the curiosity, it's literally as minute as gaining information so you can navigate better, all the way to finding breakthroughs and discoveries inside of the organization. Like that's literally, it really runs the gamut across the board on all of these things. And I think that is why it's so important for us to have that, not just for the companies or organizations we work for, but for ourselves to figure out how we can really sort of, repackage ourselves, repackage our skill sets, repackage our experiences, and do something a little bit new with them, right? And that's one of the things. My professional curiosity is what led me to being a career coach. I didn't study being a career coach, study counseling. I didn't do any of that stuff, right? I was a hiring manager for a biotech company. I was constantly interviewing people, reviewing resumes. I noticed, a lot of candidates of color are having issues conveying their value inside of their documents and during interviews. I said, that's really interesting. So I put a little pin in that thought. I was like, okay, I'm noticing this thing, right? Next thing I know, I have friends and family who are like, oh, you review resumes. Can you review my resume? Can you help me get a job? So I'm doing these things and I'm like, these people are actually getting these jobs that they want. So you're onto something here. I'm like, okay, well, let's just see. I'm gonna start a business and just help some people out, right? Thinking I'm gonna have 1 to 2 clients a month. Next thing I know, in the first year, I'd helped over 125 people. And literally it was just my curiosity around this issue that I noticed of Black and brown people having an issue conveying their value. Right. And when I was a little bit more curious about it, I dug a little bit deeper, I realized, okay, there's this space. There's people who are doing career coaching and career counseling and all these things. And I was like, okay, what is all this about? Let me learn a little bit more about this. Next thing you know, I started a business. 3 years later, next thing you know, I'm literally full-time in my business. That was just out of a curiosity of an observation that I made while I was inside of my corporate job.
Yeah.
Strictly
That's
curiosity.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Right. And it wasn't like a traditional pathway. It wasn't something, people literally go to school for counseling to go and do career counseling, which is a thing. Right. So it wasn't like this was a traditional pathway of mine. It was just something I uncovered by being curious about what was going on around me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's also like, I love it because part of what you touched on was like personal growth as well. Right. It's just like, I think that's the thing that some people, we discount for our career as personal growth. Like where do you want the money to reside? But also like, where do you want to be as a person, as a professional? I'll never forget. There was a guy that I worked for. He was the director of the school. And this school was run like a software company. And, people were like, I can never tell if he's upset. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to live like this. I'm just going to sit down and ask this dude, who are you? Like, where are you from? Tell me your story. How did you get here? The timeline's not adding up. You're not on LinkedIn. You can't Google you. Like, what's up? And I used to sit down with him once a week, and we would just talk. And he would tell me everything. I mean, like, my dad was a coach for the Cleveland Browns, grew up around athletics, right? Like, just tell me everything. And as a result, and not only was I trusted with more responsibility and had more leeway at work, but I actually learned how to create a new, honestly, career pathway for myself by talking to him, because he would just download, just give me all of this information. And once I figured out that worked, I just started doing that. I just started talking to as many people as I could, and they would just give me the blueprint. They were like, look, if you want X, do A, B, C, and D. And I was like, okay. And then I would try it and it would work, right? Or I'd try it and it wouldn't work. And I said, okay, well, that worked for him, but not for me, right? And so I think personal growth, like, don't overlook the fact that being curious about either your boss or somebody, right? Like if you have questions for Tristan, message him on LinkedIn, right? Like, message me on LinkedIn, right? Like, I give all kinds of time to folks who have questions and stuff like that. So, so yeah, I mean, look, Rashada's commenting, which is awesome.
Look, yeah, that's amazing, Rashada. Like, literally, when you look at the research when it comes to curiosity, much of it will tell you that by triggering your curiosity, you actually make fewer decision-making errors as well, right? It actually helps you in your process. It has positive effects because it leads us to generate alternatives to what we're currently considering, right? And generating that alternative is the key to really making great decisions. And so there's so many positive benefits by staying curious and really understanding, like, hey, everything doesn't have to happen one way, right? There's tons of different ways for things to happen, and my job is just to uncover some of those things. Right? That is literally key to everything you're trying to do, right? That exploration is so essential when it comes to literally anything in your career.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, well, I'm not seeing too many questions. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Rashada, I appreciate you engaging with us, my friend. I see a couple other people that I think I know on the live. Hey, y'all. But Mike, you have any other comments around this professional curiosity point?
Man, I feel like we're in the same place. You know, like we've said what needs to be said. I really think that the only thing I have is actually is a question / challenge for those who are here and that's listening. Is like, you've heard it from us. Now, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? Like, are you gonna if you're listening, you're like, yo, this is a missing link in my career. Then what I would love is for you to do something about it this week, and then tweet and tag me, Tristan, and Living Corporate in it. Like, tell us how you felt. Tell us how it went. Tell us what you're hopeful for. That's my challenge.
Look, a curiosity challenge. Yeah. Everybody, I want everybody on here and everyone who rewatches this.
Yeah.
Let us know, what's one thing you're going to be curious about. Tristan, look, I got this, Monica. Tristan's the truth. I appreciate you. Yes, Monica, hello. Happy New Year. I appreciate that comment too. Thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, no, for sure. I love that curiosity challenge. I'm going to take it myself. How am I going to be curious this week? Y'all going to see something from me out on social media and how I've let my curiosity roam free. But a couple of things that I want to, before we sort of get to the wind down here. Mm-hmm. For everyone who may be new to this, we are having shows weekly, right? This is something that happens. This is a weekly thing. So next week, y'all got to sign up for next week's session. I just have to say this, because next week's session, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm mad that I'm not one of the hosts of this session. My girl Rashada can tell you why, because the topic is effective documentation, how to cover your you-know-what, right? Mm-hmm. I'm mad that I'm not one of the hosts of that, because everybody on this knows I stand a receipt when it comes to career. But yes, the next one is effective documentation, which is happening on January 19th. On January 26th, we're going to have respectability politics. That's a conversation that Tiffany and I are going to be running. We're going to talk a little bit about defining respectability politics and how to combat it or how to wield it at times, because that is another piece of it. Then we're going to get into effective project and time management on February 2nd with Mike and Brandon.
Yeah.
That's another one that I'm actually mad I'm not one of the hosts on. Look, y'all know my topics. I don't like it. No. We're going to have some goal setting and career planning sessions with Tiffany and I on February 9th. We're going to talk about leveraging learning for career growth, resilience, and adaptability, which resilience has actually been a very big key word. A very big keyword when it comes to sourcing candidates. Recruiters have been mentioning that like crazy because of all the things we've gone through. So that's going to be a really hype session too, because it's going to be necessary for people to understand what resilience is, how we display that, how we utilize that inside of our careers here. See, we got some people chiming in. I love it. I love it. Executive assistants. I know all about covering you know what. So I might have to cuss on here. But y'all gonna get me started because look, any of my employees, coworkers, anybody can tell you Tristan gonna pull out a receipt. He gonna pull it out quick. Okay. But yeah, so we got some really great topics that are going to be coming up over the next couple of weeks. So what we want you to do, there is a little green follow button in your upper right corner. We want you to follow Living Corporate because what that does is that gives you notifications for when things are going to be popping off. It'll tell you when sessions are going to start in about an hour. So that way you are able to prep yourself. You're able to get seated, get your notepad out, get ready for everything. The other thing, if you're not going to follow us on here, then the thing that I want you to do is I'm putting all of Living Corporate socials inside of the chat. Every single one of them. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You got one of them that you love. That's so right. I want you to go and I want you to follow Living Corporate so you can see when these college access points actually get started, get going. And the other thing, you want to follow us. See what we up to. So Mike, where can people connect with you? Where's the best place for them to get your attention?
Definitely get me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and I feel differently about Twitter today. I'm starting to really like Twitter again. So you can catch me on Twitter, and I'm actually putting my Twitter in the chat. I also put my LinkedIn there.
I was about to say, I was about to pull your LinkedIn if you ain't have it up there.
I'll put it up there.
Okay, perfect. So with me too, you can find me across Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Layfield Resume, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, which I'm going to put my link inside of here for LinkedIn. If I'm being quite honest with y'all, I'm sort of on a social media hiatus. You might have seen, Mike, I ain't been on in a minute.
I have seen that.
Yeah, social media has been a lot for me over the last about month and a half, but I'll be returning soon. I'll be making my grand entrance for 2021 real soon. But yeah, so we really appreciate you joining us for the season kickoff. We wanted to make sure we just sort of gave you a little bit of information on, this professional curiosity point, talk a little bit about some of the lineup we have. I'm excited about these topics because these are essential for new professionals, for seasoned professionals, for anybody that's going on, anybody that's trying to progress their career. So yeah, Mike, you got any words for the people before we sign off?
Man, yeah, just look, follow us, invite your people, get them over here. The goal is to help as many Black and brown folks get in honestly positions of power and the careers that they love as possible. So yeah, share this stuff.
Share it with all your people. I want everybody on here to bring a friend next week because we're having one of my favorite topics. I'm not even. Let me tell you where I'm gonna be on this live. I want to talk about some receipts because I have too many stories about when those came in handy for me in my career. Believe me, all the way to a court situation with an employer. So, thank you, Monica. Thank you, Chandra. Thank you, Rashada. Thank you, everybody who was in here, and we will absolutely see you all next week. Okay.
Yep.
Peace out, y'all.
Right, y'all.